tell anyone who she was. She wouldn't give them her identity. That was the other thing. In the car that she had been riding in, they found in her purse, I think it was like 3 or 4 magazines of bullets. There were all kinds of false credentials, Social Security cards, birth certificates, that kind of thing, with different names. She herself had a identification card using another name, but it was after she got to the hospital and they fingerprinted her that they were able to identify her, because by then the FBI had posters up all over the country, and they had her fingerprints, so they were able to connect her and identify her that way.
I believe all 3 occupants of the car were carrying false ID, right?
They were. Yes, they were.
And this would probably be because of the whole COINTELPRO, that they were underground because, they were in fear for their lives.
Perhaps. They don't know the real reason where they were going and for what purpose. Assata said that she was going to New York to start working as a bar waitress, which seems a little far-fetched, but that was what she claimed. The other 2 were just taking her. So they never did determine why they were out that night on the New Jersey Turnpike or where they were going.
Okay, but even still, there's no law of driving down the New Jersey Turnpike day or night. Anybody's allowed to do that, right?
No, that's right. That's right.
Right. And also, too, now, what about, did they ever find her fingerprints on any of the guns or these magazines or anything that was in her purse?
Well, that was an interesting, too, because during the trial it came out that her fingerprints were not found on any of the weapons, and they had eventually the defense was able to get 2 medical experts to report that there was no way that she could have shot any of the guns because her hands were up, which she claimed. She said her hands were up, and when the trooper discovered her and told her to come forward, she raised her hands and came forward, and he shot her. That was her story. And that's what the medical experts also backed up, that because of the way that the bullets entered her both arms, that it made one arm paralyzed immediately, and there was no way that she could have raised her hands.
So,
or shot a gun.
So the defense forensic medical expert testified that when she was shot, she had her hands up and she was surrendering, and she was also shot in the back on one bullet. So possibly, even with her back turned to police when she was shot.
That's right. That's right.
And wasn't there something, too, that right after that, the defense expert testified that the judge says, we're not going to give you guys any more money for experts. We're not going to give you any more money for witnesses or experts to testify on your behalf?
Right. Well, you have now we're getting back into the trial stage of it, and there was so much going on. But one interesting thing, too, you have to realize that even with all of the negative publicity that the FBI was putting out on these groups, they still had a tremendous amount of support, not only within their own community, or the black community around the world, but also big-named stars like Jane Fonda and Marlon Brando and Leonard Bernstein. They supported these groups and often helped either through giving them money or bailing them out of jail when they could, and things like that. So they did have support. They weren't just hanging out there and trying to do it all themselves.
Yeah, I can remember that even during the trials and stuff like that, there would be huge protests out in front of the courthouses every day, every night at the end of the trial. Yeah, so this was it was a whole different time back in those days. It was an incredible different time. So now, Okay, so now we left off, though, and we got about 5 minutes before the commercial break comes, and then we're going to have a nice 5-minute break. And drink a little warm water, make your throat a little, your voice a little stronger.
Okay.
And then you have plenty of time to come back at 5 minutes, a nice little break. So what happens after she's in the hospital, and her Confederates that were in the car with her, did they expire? They died, or they were convicted as well?
One was convicted, one was dead, and then the other was convicted. But this went on for months. You have to realize that there were so many trials going on because there were so many things for which they were charged. Assata especially. She was indicted 10 times between 1973 and 1977 in New York and New Jersey. 10 times. Can you believe? And the results were 7 different criminal trials. And for instance, she was charged with 2 bank robberies. He was charged with kidnapping of a Brooklyn heroin dealer, the attempted murder of 2 Queens police officers, and a failed ambush, and 8 other felonies, but the 8 felonies all related to the Turnpike shootout. Now, and of all those trials, 3 indictments were dismissed without trial. 3 resulted in acquittals, 1 in a hung jury, and 1 in a change of venue, and 1 in a mistrial due to pregnancy. And so the only one that resulted in a conviction was the New Jersey Turnpike shootout out of all of those trials. And, of course, this took place between the years of 1973 and 77. So they just drug on forever. And her associates were also, some of them were co-defendants with her during this period. Some had their own trials. It was just a very intense law enforcement movement to get control of Black Panthers and the Black Liberation Movement and any other organization that was connected.
So around this period, she had these. She was just shot up, sitting in a hospital, and now they dump all these charges, all these different crimes and different trials, but not a single conviction on any of those other charges.
That's right. And these were the things that they had been looking for her, the reason they had been looking for her. And then to compound it, though, was the shootout on the Turnpike. They had wanted to get her for all of these other trials, for all these other accusations. But for various reasons, there was only the one that she was actually convicted.
And in that one that she was convicted of, I guess the conviction was ultimately murder, conspiracy to murder?
It was the murder and attempted murder of Harper, Trooper Harper, and then the murder of her friend, whose name was also Shakur, although they weren't related. And even though the evidence was that she did not actually fire the guns that murdered Trooper Forrester or her friend Shakur in New Jersey, it still counts. You're still held responsible if you're connected with murder, whether you do the shooting or the actual murder or not.
Yeah, in many states, if you're involved in the commission of a felony and there's a death during that crime, you're charged with murder. So even though if you didn't shoot the gun, someone else with you shot, or even later on that day, you could be involved with a drug dealer with somebody, and if they stole those drugs, if they killed somebody to get those drugs and they sell them to you later on, you had no idea, you can be charged with murder. This is amazing stuff. So even though Assata Shakur at the time no fingerprints on the gun, no gunshot residue in her hands, she was shot. Medical evidence proves that she was shot with her hands up, surrendering. She was still charged and convicted with a murder that day. How much time did she get on that? Oh, we got a break coming up. We're here with Barbara Casey. Barbara Casey Agency.com. We're talking about her book about Assata Shakur. The book's called, real quick, Assata Shakur, 20th Century Escaped Slave. We'll be right back with more of Barbara Casey of Barbara Casey Agency. And now a word from our sponsors. Archival Revival, the Christian Film Archive, is currently paying for vintage Christian films. They are dedicated to preserving and restoring classic Christian films and media. So if you have original prints, negatives, or other film elements of classic Christian films, or you have audio recording masters for classic Christian record albums, they want to buy them from you. So email archival.revival@gmail.com and they're going to make you an offer. Archival Revival wants to preserve these classic Christian films so that they continue saving people for years. These films have brought people to salvation. They want to continue that. Their staff has decades of experience in handling and preserving of film elements, utilize the very best climate-controlled film storage facilities around the world. Contact them today at archival.revival@gmail.com. If there's someone you know has these prints, negatives, recording masters, or other materials from vintage Christian films, you can check out their blog at archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Now, just so you understand, Archival Revival wants to pay you for these films. So you can look in your church attic, in the church basement. If you have a friend who runs a Christian youth ministry, these youth vacation Bible study camp, they have these old films in those big metal containers, 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter. Archival Revival wants to buy them from you. So this is a sponsor that actually wants to give you money. And all you have to do is contact them, tell them what you have. If you're in the UK or Ireland or Africa, these films are all over the world and they're gathering dust and they're going to deteriorate if they don't get into the hands of Archival Revival. So that's archival.revival@gmail.com, or the blog spot is archivalrevival.blogspot.com. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by pscoco.com. Phoebe Sod is an independent curator with the Cocoa Exchange. The Cocoa Exchange is formerly known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries, and they make the finest silky smooth chocolate because the products start with the best cocoa beans, which are tested for quality and flavor by expert technicians. The Cocoa Exchange offers not just premium chocolates, but anything from sauces and spices to brownie and cake mixes, and even coffee and martini mixes. If you wish to treat yourself or someone you love to a sweet and tasty gift, then the Cocoa Exchange is the brand for you. So you go to pscoco.com, you click on the Shop Now button. You can see all their beautiful chocolates. You can order it right now tonight. It could be in your mailbox in a couple of days. Or if you want to get into the chocolate business, you want to be a chocolatier just like Phoebe Sod, click the Contact Us button and you can learn how to get your own website, go into the cocoa chocolate business and sell chocolate and make a little bit of money there. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. But you also do all kinds of different services for you. An online dating service investigation. It's called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites. And we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites. If you think your ex-husband or something is addicted to prescription medication, or involved in an extreme online pornography addiction, we can produce a report for you that you can use in court. Adoption investigations. If you want to locate your birth parents or your birth child you gave away for adoption, we can do adoption investigations for you. Asset searches for you. Locate bank accounts, hidden assets, hidden properties, hidden income, all different kinds of services in the asset search investigation. Email tracing. If you need to locate or identify somebody from just an email address, we can do an email trace investigation for you, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
Launch sequence initiated. We're now in the approach phase. Everything looking good. Control is good. 5. Roger, copy. 3. 2. 1. Okay. Prepare your mind to experience American Freedom Radio.